In Attack of the Clones, we see Obi Wan be captured and brought to Count Dooku. This leads to a scene like none other where Count Dooku mourns the death of Qui-Gon and pleads to Kenobi that he is not a bad man. During this, Dooku speaks of a Dark Lord of the Sith who has control of the Senate. He asks Obi-Wan to join him, and together they can stop him. Now obviously Obi-Wan says no to this and rejects Dooku, pretty much saying that he would rather die than join him. Obi-Wan encapsulates the purest qualities of a Jedi. He wants to save the galaxy and maintain peace. He has no ambition to conquer the galaxy, so rejecting Dooku's offer is expected. But in today's fanfiction, we are going to see what would have happened if Obi-Wan had a change of heart and felt the desire to rule the galaxy. The story begins with him accepting Count Dooku's offer to join him. Anakin and Padme are already on their way to try and rescue their friend Obi-Wan, not realizing the shift within him. This would destroy Anakin. First, he lost Qui-Gon, his first master who had immense faith in him, and now Obi-Wan was second. Obi-Wan was like a brother to Anakin. He had practically raised and taught him how to become a man, so some could even say he was like his father. By the time that Anakin and Padme had realized that Obi-Wan turned to the dark side, it was too late. They were captured and brought into the arena where the crowd of Geonosians commanded their deaths. This was like sport to them. They arrived at this large stadium to witness the gladiator-like Jedi being slaughtered. The following events would follow suit, similar to the story that we know today, except Obi-Wan would be alongside Dooku. Although he had turned to the dark side, he still remembers the days of old when he raised the young boy from Tatooine. But now he had joined Dooku. He suppressed that side of himself that cared for the Jedi. Soon after, Yoda and Mace Windu would arrive with the remaining Jedi Order and the first batch of clone troopers, beginning the Clone Wars. Obi-Wan and Count Dooku quickly slipped out of the arena and headed for their ship, sensing the danger that they would be in if they stayed. Anakin was able to follow them on a New Republic gunship. Anakin calls out to his master before he enters the ship. He is confused. He has no idea why Obi-Wan would do such a thing. Never before has he hinted or mentioned anything like this that would cause him to turn to the dark side. He was always a strong and moral man, so what was he doing? Dooku was quick and fierce on Kenobi that they must leave and kill Anakin. He is a part of his old life and now he must move on. But Obi-Wan calls out to Anakin, the last tether to the light side that he has. He commands Anakin to join them, and together they can bring peace to the galaxy. Without a moment's hesitation, Anakin rejects his master. He ignites his lightsaber, with tears flooding his face. Obi-Wan couldn't believe it, but he knew what had to be done. In his eyes, Anakin would only stand in the way of peace for the galaxy. Dooku and Obi-Wan ignite their sabers too, and attack Skywalker. Dooku was the aggressor in this conflict. His Form 2 fighting style, which focused primarily on lightsaber combat, meant that he was far more powerful than Anakin. Obi-Wan's movements were restricted, and Dooku could feel this, but it didn't matter. Once Anakin was dead, the dark side would be revealed within Kenobi and he would be nothing but a rage-filled Force user like him. Very quickly, it became clear that Anakin was no match for Dooku. He tried his best to keep up, and he even provided the odd aggressive swing himself. But Dooku easily parried the attacks and put Anakin on the back foot. Before long, Anakin lost his place and Dooku stabbed him through the heart, killing him. Obi-Wan stands over his dead apprentice's body, unsure of what to do. He feels sadness, but most of all shame. He told Anakin to join them, and together they can destroy Sidious, but he didn't listen and now he is dead. Rage consumes him as his eyes turn from a light blue to a harsh, broken Sith yellow. Obi-Wan has fully committed himself to the dark side of the Force. He has no one left to live for, but he will bring peace to the galaxy. Obi-Wan and Dooku head to a remote planet in the Outer Rim, where no one will ever find them. It's secluded, but the place where Dooku can train his new apprentice. Dooku is still Palpatine's apprentice, which means he strictly is not allowed another apprentice as per the rule of 2. A Sith code that states there can only be a master and apprentice, no more, no less. So because of this, Obi Wan is kept secret from Palpatine. If he ever found out about him, he would find him and kill him. Dooku continues to operate exactly how he is, but in his free time he goes to Obi Wan and trains him further, teaching him the ways of the dark side. The more they train, the more they plot on how they will kill Palpatine. At this point, Palpatine is more powerful than them, without a doubt. He is arguably the most powerful man in the galaxy, but together it could be a different story. Count Dooku was said to be the greatest duelist the Jedi Order had ever seen, which means when you pair that with Obi-Wan's talents, which would have been boosted by the dark side, Palpatine would be in trouble. Obi-Wan was taught the secrets to Sith lightning, Force choke, and his anger was fully released in order to best reveal the darkness within him. After what seemed like years of training, although it was probably only a few months, Dooku felt like Obi-Wan was ready to face Palpatine with him. In order to have the best chance at defeating Palpatine, they needed the element of surprise. Their plan was simple, and the two had practiced it dozens of times before. They would sneak into Palpatine's quarters, where he was sleeping, and simply strike him down with their sabers then and there. That way there would be no engagement if everything went to plan. And so they leave for his quarters, arriving on Coruscant and entering the building. Moving silently, they enter his room and find Palpatine sound asleep on his bed. They go to either side and prepare to strike, pulling the hilt of their lightsabers from their belts. Palpatine remains asleep. Together, they raise the hilts of their blades, and on the whispered count of 3, they ignite it and thrust their blades for Palpatine's head. Palpatine immediately senses the danger and wakes up, igniting one of his lightsabers kept hidden with him at all times. He moves to dodge one blade and block the other one, but due to the speed and ferocity cannot move entirely out of the way. His left arm drops to the floor motionless and he groans in agony. Obi-Wan had successfully landed his lightsaber and cut off Palpatine's arm, but he was still alive. Palpatine pushed Dooku off and used the Force to push them both backwards, giving him enough time to get to his feet. Palpatine was seriously disadvantaged now. Although still extremely powerful, he raised his saber and strikes at his apprentice and Obi-Wan. Palpatine was in real danger at this point. He had never been so close to the brink of death as he is now. Continuing to strike and use offense on his opponents, he was able to knock Obi-Wan out by kicking him in the head. But it would prove useless when Dooku used all of his strength and skill to disarm Palpatine by chopping his other arm off. He was defenseless, a sitting duck waiting for death. All these years waiting patiently, just to die a futile death like this. Count Dooku stares at his master before slicing his head off his body. He was dead. With Palpatine dead, the Senate was defenseless and they needed a new Chancellor as quickly as possible. There were many candidates for this position, like Padme Amidala from Naboo, but ultimately Bail Organa was elected from Alderaan. He strived to bring peace and a swift conclusion to the Clone Wars. His first immediate moves as Chancellor were defensive, removing the Republic army out of as many sectors of the galaxy as possible. He moved to begin discussions with the Separatists in order to end the war with diplomacy instead of fighting. However, this left the Republic vulnerable, the most vulnerable they had ever been since the beginning of the conflict. Obi-Wan and Dooku continued on to the next part of their grand plan. They needed to capture the Supreme Chancellor. In order to do this, they would have to locate him undetected, which for Sith who had evaded the traces of the Jedi for over a millennia would be easy. They entered Bail Organa's office on Coruscant and killed everyone in the room apart from him. Without a moment's hesitation, Dooku informed him that he would execute the Order 66 in the Clone Troopers programming. Bail didn't know what this was or why he needed to be the one to do it. He had only been in office a few weeks and was still figuring everything out. But the Sith were direct, they knew exactly what they wanted. Bail had little choice. If he said no to the Sith, his loved ones would be in danger and would be killed. He couldn't handle that. He was left with only one choice. He gets his communication stick out and regretfully mutters the words, "Execute Order 66. It was done. Those 3 words would cause the downfall of the Jedi. Masters, Knights, and Padawans were spread across the galaxy at this point, but now they were reduced to target practice for the clones. Tens of thousands of deaths occurred that day. Obi Wan and Dooku sat back and watched the destruction unfold in front of them. Flames from the once Jedi temple could be seen for miles. The smell of charred flesh from the bullet holes in the Jedi temple carried across Coruscant. After long, the 2 Sith would march into the halls of the temple too, ready to cut down any last stragglers. As they step over bodies, both clones and Jedi, they see the lifeless corpses of Mace Windu and Yoda, side by side. The gigantic number of clones were able to pierce through even their defenses. The Jedi were over and the galaxy would be ruled by a new force. Dooku had hijacked Palpatine's plans. He never truly felt ambitious enough to want the entire galaxy for himself. But after Palpatine's death, the galaxy was in his arm's reach and he couldn't resist. He placed himself atop of the Senate and none could ever oppose him. Obi Wan became his right-hand man, his iron fist, ready to slaughter anyone who opposed him. Essentially, this was the Empire, except Dooku was Palpatine and Obi Wan was Vader. But now there was no chance of a rebellion that could stand up and fight. Dooku and Obi Wan would rule until the end of time, claiming the galaxy and all of its resources. The Sith would never be wiped out again. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. A few people have covered this what if before, but I thought I would put my take on it. Usually, people have finished it with the light side winning, but I thought I would start the what if off with Anakin's death. At the point where Obi-Wan joined Dooku at the beginning, Dooku really didn't have the ambition to take over the galaxy, he just wanted Palpatine dead. So I think with Obi-Wan they would have done a surprise attack on Sidious and would have ultimately killed him. Dooku, knowing Palpatine's plans, would follow it and execute Order 66 to eliminate the Jedi. Now obviously Obi-Wan never would have gone along with these events, but that's the fun of creating fanfictions. We can imagine certain characters in situations where they never would have found themselves. We have a lot of plans moving forward in this channel and a bunch of what ifs to create. We are also thinking of making some lore videos and theory videos for upcoming shows, video games, and even novels, so stay tuned for that. I hope you all enjoyed it, and may the Force be with you.